Hey guys, John ReelBlue Custom Rods, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do a single color box wrap. And what I mean by a single color box wrap is I'm going to do the box in one color and then the outer border of the box in another color. So the box today is going to be Pro Wrap Color Fast 552. And the border or the frame out will be Pro Wrap Color Fast 210. Both of these are size A. So let's go ahead and get started. Go. So the first thing I'm going to do is come to the tip of the rod, and we're going to work from the tip towards the butt in the beginning. And what I have to do is find my spacing here. And once we get that done, we come down here, we'll tie this off, and then I'll do it again. This time I'm going to come forward of that wrap, and I'm going to we're going to create a gap, and I'm going to come right over that second dot that I have, and that gap or spacing that you're making between your thread, it's a good idea to start with about 1/4 inch when you're first doing it, and then see how it works from there for you. And then of course, depending on the diameter of the rod that you're using, you can just change the spacing up. But I like starting with 1/4 inch for instructional purposes, if you will. And I think that's a good place to start at. So now that I've got those threads down, I'm going to come back over and go right over our cross marks. All right, and then we'll cut that thread. We'll go back to the butt end again, and this time we'll wrap towards the tip. Again, on the open side there, creating that space. Come right across our mark. Not a lot of pressure, not pulling really tight with my right hand. I'm not making this thread wrap super tight. Just making sure I'm crossing my marks. All right. And then we're going to go ahead, cut that thread. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a little time here with my burnishing tool and just checking our cross marks, checking these boxes. And I also want to just make a bit more of a red mark here. This is going to be, I guess, essentially what I'm going to call the top of the rod for right now. But I'm just coming through and I'm just checking out the spacing on these. Ideally, right, I should have a 90-degree angle. It created a box or a diamond turned sideways, depending on how you want to look at it. But I'm just getting that set up, and then I'm just trying to make sure my threads are somewhat symmetrical here, spaced out correctly. I think I'm looking okay. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go ahead and now we're going to take some border, this 210, and we're going to start at the butt end, and we're going to wrap the outside. So we're going to stay on the outside of this wrap, if you will. Again, not a lot of pressure. We'll go down and then cut, and then come back to the butt end, and we'll do that again, this time on the upper part. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and come back down. Again, staying on the outer part, we're going to come on the bottom here. All right. And then we'll tie this off down here on the butt end. We'll cut and we'll move back to the tip end and then do the outer portion of that upper spot, or the upper part of this green wrap, if you will. All right. And I must say, I like this color combination. Really like this color combination. Again, that is 552 is the green, Color Fast Pro Wrap 552 is the green, and 210, Pro Wrap Color Fast 210 is this kind of burnt orange color. So now that's the outside. So once you get your spacings for this box wrap, with your initial color and then you come back, all this really is a repeating of the 4 steps. It's really kind of, doing the inner one way, doing the inner the other way, doing the outer one way, doing the outer the other way, and then just keep repeating that. And that's what that's going to be. That's what that's going to look like. So now that we have the initial part of the box wrap done on the inside, and we have the initial outer wrap done in the orange, we're going to come back to the tip portion of this rod, and we are going to wrap on the inside on the bottom part, or the bottom part of that green wrap. Just taking my time. All right, and I'll wrap that down. Cut it, come back to the tip, and we're going to wrap on the inside again, but on the upper portion. All right. Okay. And then we're just going to kind of stop there for a second. And I'm just going to come in here and take an opportunity to pack these threads. Not a lot of pressure with this burnishing tool. I am not trying to move a lot of stuff here. I'm just trying to make sure that my threads are kind of laying next to themselves. Because if I do too much pressure and I accidentally end up moving something too far, then you get mad at yourself. So I'm just moving the thread a little bit. Okay, so now what we're going to do, once I get this thread where I want it here, now what we're going to do is we're going to come back down on the inside on the bottom. All right, and we'll cut that, come back to the butt end, work back towards the tip end on the inside. And then once we get down here, all right, pull that tight, cut, and then we just want to come back in here with our burnishing tool. Oh, excuse me. Going the wrong direction here. We already did that side. We're just making sure that thread is packed a little, close as we want to get it without pushing anything. All right, and then we're just going to come back with the orange down to the butt end of the rod. And we're doing the outside. We'll wrap the outside on this bottom portion. And then we'll cut that. Come back to the butt end. and we'll do the top on the outside. Again, not a lot of pressure or tension with your hand holding the spool. You're just kind of laying those threads down, and you want to be able to move them with your burnishing tool or your pick or whatever you're using if you need to move them. So don't put too much pressure on them. All right, and we'll just hold that there for a second. Actually, we'll just cut that part off. And then we'll just use our burnishing tool, pack these threads a little bit. Oops, see, like that. Burnishing tool slips over those threads, man. It moves your other thread, and you got to go back and fix it. All right. Okay, now we're going to take that same thread from the tip end, and we're going to work towards the butt, and we're going to wrap on the bottom but on the outside. So we're going to hit this bottom green segment, if you will, but on the outside. All right. And then we'll do that again on the top. All right. Okay. And again, that's it, man. You're just doing the 2 wraps, or essentially really the 4 wraps right on the inside. So you're essentially filling in the inside and then filling out the outside. And you just keep repeating that step until you've filled in your box. So I'll keep repeating that step until I fill in this box here with the green thread. And then once I do that, then it's about, framing out, or the continued framing out of the box. Or at that point, getting into other pieces or other types of decorative wraps if you're going to incorporate something else into your box wrap. But the big takeaway here is you want to work with a 90-degree angle. Is ideal, right? And you want to start your spacing. And what I mean by 90-degree angle, your 90-degree angle of your cross. When you're crossing all these points, you want it at about a 90-degree angle, or as close as you can get it to that. You don't want to be too extreme, because if you stretch out, if you're at a 90-degree angle and you stretch it out, you end up creating more of a diamond versus a box. That's what you end up doing. And the space, again, that you want to start off with, just practice with about a 1/4 inch and see how a 1/4 inch works. Just try to keep it even, and then work through it and then make the wraps. But pretty easy, right? Pretty easy. So let me know what you think so far. If you haven't, if you're finding the video useful and you're getting something out of it and you haven't hit the like button yet, please hit the like button. And then also subscribe if you have not subscribed, if you're new to the channel. And so welcome if you are new to the channel. We're glad to have you. So what we'll do now is we're going to go down on the inside with the green. All right. So on the inside with the green there, we'll cut that thread. Come back to the tip end of the rod, do it again. On the upper side. All right. And then I'm going to cut that just because it's easier to just reapply the thread to the rod after we're done packing here. Now we're going to pack the thread. Just use our burnishing tool. Not a lot of pressure. I'm just trying to get that stuff laid next to the threads beside it. You know, I'm not really trying to move too much stuff, right? And then do the same thing going down this way. And even though I like NCP thread, right, we get these cool bright colors with NCP thread. You know, there are, in my mind, there are challenges when using NCP thread versus using nylon thread when you're getting into decorative wraps. And I've said it before, and I say it again. Nylon thread will help you hide flaws in your wrap better than NCP thread will. NCP thread will actually, depending on the color of it, will actually, you know, magnify it or make your error stand out a little bit. But you know, it's a trade-off. You get really cool looking wraps, bright colors and everything when you're using your NCP thread. So now I'm going to wrap back down on the inside, going towards the butt. All right, and we'll come down here to the end, cut that off, go back to the butt end, wrap back down towards the tip on the inside. All right. All right. And now we will just pack those threads a little bit. All right. That all looks pretty good right there. Let's tighten that up. All right, so these ends are kind of a wash for me, right? They'll end up getting covered over by my overwrap. But now I'm going to go back to my orange, and I'm going to do the outside. Again, starting on the bottom. All right, and then come back to the butt and wrap towards the tip on the top part on the outside this time. And then I will show you guys, we'll burnish, and then I'll show you something after we do the next wrap down. So pull that. So now what I want to do is I'm just going to pack these threads. Really quick. Okay, and then we're going to wrap back down from the tip end of the rod towards the butt on the outside, going down on the bottom first. All right, so that's one. And then we'll do that one more time. On the top, going down on the outside. All right, and then we will cut that end. Set that thread aside. We will pack these outside wraps with the orange. All right, same thing going down towards the butt end. Okay, so now that we have that done, you can see you can see where this wrap is starting to create the flat ends, right? So the outside part of the box is starting to come together as we fill in. So you can see that there on this wrap. So that is why we're just repeating that inside, inside, outside, outside. And you go in with the green with your color that you're going to have, your primary box color, and then you're just wrapping on the outside after each pass on the inside with your box color, then you come back with a pass with your border color on the outside. So it's a fairly easy wrap. So let's just, we'll keep going here. But again, let me know what you guys think down in the comments block. If you like the colors or if you like the box wrap technique, let me know if you tried it before, if you've never tried it before. And also, hit the like button. Let me know what you guys think of the video. So, all right, let's keep going here. All right, so we'll come back with the green. And we will do the inside on the bottom here. And then we'll wrap this off. Cut that. And then we will come back and do that again from the tip end of the rod. This time I'm going to wrap the inside of the upper part of that wrap. And then what we'll do, we'll come down here, wrap this off, and we'll use a little burnishing tool action. Again, not a lot of pressure. I'm just trying to pack those threads. I don't want to create a big, huge gap here in the middle. That bows out, if you will. And I think what I want to do is we're just going to go ahead and add some tape now. Get that on there. All right, and now we're going to come to the butt end with the green thread. Again, come down on the bottom. And then we'll come back to the butt end again on the top. All right. And we'll cut that. Just make sure we're not over anything there. Yep, okay. So now we're gonna come back with the orange, the 210, and we're gonna start again right at the butt, come down on the bottom. On the outside, you know, we're on the outside of that bottom wrap here. All right, tie that off. And then we'll come back up to the top, or to the bottom here, the butt again, and go across the top part of that wrap now. On the outside. All right. And then we're just going to cut that really quick. Come back with our burnishing tool, and we're going to pack these orange border threads. Okay, I just want to make sure those are all nice and tight there. All right, now we're going to come back down from the tip end towards the butt. On the outside, on the bottom first. Could you notice I'm starting my wraps, whether it's on the outside or the inside, you notice I'm starting mine on the bottom every time. Could you start your wraps on the top instead of starting on the bottom? The answer is yes. You could start at the top instead of the bottom, but whatever you choose to do, you have to make sure you continue to do that way. So if you start at the top, whether it's the inside or the outside, you have to start at the top for the entire wrap. Same thing if you start like me and starting on the bottom, I have to start at the bottom for this entire wrap every time. So just keep that in mind. So now we're going to the top, on the outside of the top part here. And then I'm going to show you guys something, a little pro tip, once I wrap this and pack this part of the thread wrap. Okay, so let's pack these really quick. And then I'd like to point something out for you guys to consider if you're going to try this wrap. And this is the value of watching the entire video, or being lucky enough to skim through the video and just land on this piece. Let me get this thread down. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another thread and I'm going to try to point something out to you guys. So essentially, right? Essentially, you can see these 4 little boxes. And trying to create this box, I'm essentially creating 2 color boxes, smaller boxes, until I get it completed, right? Or even when it's completed, and then if you're looking at it. But if I took like this blue thread to help kind of make this stand out, all right, so let me go over here. So if I took this blue thread, you frame it out that way. So you can frame it out this way and this way. So if I started coming in with a totally different color thread, I could essentially make 4 little boxes with orange and green thread in them if I was going to incorporate a 3rd color. Again, an example, a technique, something you can do with these threads. You just got to pay attention to what you're doing and see how things are coming together. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to come back in with the green. And we're going to go on the inside on the bottom. All right. And then tie this off, and then we're going to repeat back to the tip end of the rod. And work towards the bottom. All right. I'm going to take my burnishing tool, do a little packing. I don't want to do too much. I don't want to move things around too much because you guys will see when I get finished, I'm going to burnish this back and forth. But I do just want to make sure everything looks okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the butt end of the rod with the green and go back on the inside. Again, coming down on the bottom first. All right, and then we'll cut that. Come back on the inside at the top. All right, wrap that off, cut it. Then we're going to come back with the orange from the butt end. And wrap that off. Back to the butt end. Now we're going to go back down on the top. All right. And then what I'm going to do is come back, my burnishing tool, pack these orange threads. All right. And then we're going to wrap back towards the butt from the tip end with the orange thread again on the bottom for our border here. Okay. And then we'll come back and do it at the top part of our orange border. All right. Now again, come back with our burnishing tool, pack those border threads. And again, as you just continue to add these threads, you can really see these 4 individual boxes starting to form and come together to create the one box. So just keep that in mind. All right, so now we're going to come back with our green again. Down the inside, on the bottom. cut that thread. I'm going to do the top part on the inside. And I'm working real careful here not to overlap any other threads and get them laid down nice and neat to the next one. All right, I'm just going to leave it like that because it's what I'm going to end up doing. We're going to go here to the butt end and wrap back down on the inside. And then I stopped packing those threads on the inside is because I don't want to push them out too far to the outside and create a gap between here with these threads because I'm using this NCP thread. So it wouldn't matter if I was using nylon because I could keep running it back through there. But the NCP thread, you know, I just want to come in here and I want to be able to move these a little bit with my burnishing tool. All right, so that's one. And come back down here, do that again for two. This time on the top. All right, and then now we're going to come back with our orange border color thread, the 210 on the bottom. All right, that's one. And we're going to come back on the top now. And we're going to cut that because I'm going to want to come back and pack these threads with my burnishing tool. And same thing here on the top. Okay, And then now we're going to wrap back from the tip end of the rod towards the butt, coming down on the outside of the bottom. We'll cut that and we'll come back. We'll come back at the top. All right. And then what we'll do is we'll cut that. And now we will pack these border thread color or orange thread wraps here. All right, again, you can see those 4 squares, and then I can come back in like I was saying earlier. You know, I could come in, you know, with the blue color here, you know, vice versa here, and on the outside, and then have these 4 squares with a different pattern on the inside. All right, so we're gonna go back with the green thread from the tip towards the butt of the rod, on the inside on the bottom, then as I start wrapping to the inside, I want to make sure that I'm not overlapping any thread that I already wrapped. I just want to get it next to the last one I wrapped in there. And I know you see a little bit of spacing in between these thread wraps. That's okay. I purposely stopped packing that thread on the inside for a reason, as you guys will see when we get down towards the end here of this wrap. So that's one. Now we're going to come back down on the inside at the top. All right, then we'll go back on the bottom, on the inside. And you can see how it's getting really close to being completed in the middle here on the inside, but then I have the spacing here kind of in the band part of it. So that's why I'm leaving, or I stopped packing the thread on the inside with the green thread. All right. And we'll go back down and we'll do one more on the top, on the inside. Okay. And then now we're going to come back with the orange on the butt end. On the bottom for the border on the outside. Okay, I'll do another one from the top or from the butt towards the tip. Then I think I'll put some more tape on here just to finish this out. Okay, so let's pause there with that. Let's put some tape on here. Oops, sorry guys. All right, get some tape down here. And then we'll come in with our burnishing tool. We're going to pack these orange threads that we just wrapped. All right, once I get this packed down here, I'll talk about a couple things here because I think I'm about to the end. So there's a couple trains of thought here in my opinion when it comes to these color boxes, right? And so you can see that there is a bit of a gap here, but there's not that big of a gap there in the cross points. So there's bigger gaps here in the bands than there is in the cross points. There's two trains of thought. The first train of thought is, then what I need to do is as I finish out that wrap, I need to close these in from the outside and then burnish in the middle to fill that in, which I'll do towards the end to get as close as I want to have this all completely filled out if I was going to leave this as the sole wrap. But if I was going to wrap this whole blank with thread, an entire, filled out decorative wrap with thread, my focus is the squares, right? I want the square and I want that to look nice and neat and packed. So I'm not too worried if I have gaps here on the sides because that's going to get wrapped over with other thread on the outside. These wraps end up being on the bottom as I add more thread on top of it. So if I took this orange thread, when I was done with the square and I just wrapped the rest of this rod in orange thread, all of this stuff would be covered and it would just be orange with these green squares in the middle. So then I really don't care about the gaps here on the inside. So that's just a couple of rules of thought for that. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to wrap back from the tip to the butt with the orange thread on the outside. And again, just getting that down next to the, those previous wraps. All right. Come back down here. And we're going to do the same thing on the top. All right, then we're going to come back with our burnishing tool, pack these last orange wraps. All right, and then we're going to come back in with the green, working from the tip on the inside on the bottom. And so we should be pretty close to finishing up this wrap inside that box with this go around. And again, I just want to make sure I'm not overlapping any of these threads that I previously wrapped. Taking my time, getting that thread in there. Okay. Come down here, tie that off. We're going to do the same thing going down on the top. Okay, and then we're going to wrap down on the inside on the bottom. And I'm just looking, guys. And I have to return and do that on the top. Okay. And I think I'm pretty much close to being done. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back with my orange border now. I'm going to come down on the bottom. All right. And then we'll cut that. Go back to the butt. Come down on the top. All right, just cut that. We will pack these orange threads. All right, and then we'll wrap from the tip end of the butt, or the tip end of the rod, towards the butt, coming down on the bottom. All right, that's one. And then we'll do the second one on the top. All right. And then we'll pack these orange wraps here that we just did. All right, Now we're going to come down with what's essentially probably going to be our last set of green wraps. And we're going to come down on the inside, and we're going to try to find where that's going to work at. And we're doing just one this time, and I'm going to come right back down with this green thread. All right, so now I just did one at the end there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my burnishing tool, and I'm going to move these around a little bit and try to flatten them out. I think what I'm going to do is use my big white one here. And now I'm just using the rounded end of this burnishing tool to help flatten out these boxes, this NCP thread, if you will. Some of these will be covered on the ends, right? They're going to be covered by my tie-off wraps, but I'm just taking this green thread and pushing that down with my burnishing tool and trying to flatten out that thread. So just taking it like a pencil. Again, here's the tip, here's the rounded end. I'm just taking the rounded end and going like that in a circle on my threads. And I'll come back with my bone burnishing tool and kind of do the same thing on those squares. And I'm just flattening out that thread and trying to get that green thread to mesh in with itself. All right, now I'm not done. I want to come back with my border, my 210. We're going to come down on the bottom. That's one. I'm going to come back on the top. This is two. I'll use our yellow burnishing tool again, pack those threads. All right. And then now from the tip end on the bottom, on the outside, so that's one. I'll come back up here on the top for two. All right, so this is two. And now we're just gonna, again, burnishing tool, pack this orange thread. All right. Okay, and then that's it. I put my green thread away, and then I just keep repeating the last two steps. I start here, I wrap on the outside from the butt on the top and on the bottom and the top, and then from the tip to the butt, bottom and the top. And I just keep doing that until I border out the squares with as much orange as that I want to border them out with. But now that I'm there, again, I'm just taking my yellow burnishing tool, kind of like a pencil. This one would be a wash. I'd cover that one up with a, with my over wrap. It's going to secure this, if you will. And then I can come back in with my bone burnishing tool. All right, I can make those squares nice and flat. And that's it, right? Then I have that good box technique right there. And then because I have these gaps here, if I was going to leave it alone, I can just use my burnishing tool and move it back and forth and fill these in. That's exactly what this tool is for. So I can just move that back and forth, and that fills those gaps right on in. I start moving, it helps me move my threads around and share them where they can fit in. Right? But that's how you do that. And so hopefully this helps shed some light on what you do with your threads there on the end. But again, I wouldn't be worried about this, and I wouldn't be doing this if I was just going to do an overwrap and keep wrapping these out, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So I hope this helps, guys. Please let me know what you think in the comments block. Feel free to hit the like button if you haven't done so already. And let me know what you guys think about the video. I truly appreciate you guys, all your support, and you continue watching the videos. Make sure you guys watch this next video here. And until next time, guys, take care. Bye.